What's up YouTube? This is Dan the Fix-It Man. Got another quick video here for you. I'm going to show you how to change your front axle, your axle shaft on a 2014 Honda Odyssey. And this is going to be the driver's side. I've got another video on the passenger side. I'll put a link in the description to that video as well. Now the first thing you need to do is loosen and remove this axle nut. You can have a buddy step on the brakes, or you can just put a screwdriver like this. I'm just putting the screwdriver up in the upper end of the rotor, and that will turn and pry against the caliper. And then we can put this on here and turn it. This is a 36 millimeter on this car. Now let's try that again. This is a nice and tight, so big long breaker bar helps, or if you've got an impact. There we go. Okay, now we need to loosen and remove the tie rod end. We just need to disconnect it from the axle hub here, and I'm just gonna pry this cotter pin out. Just some a screwdriver and some diagonals works pretty well. And then we can loosen and remove that nut. It's a 17 millimeter. And there's a couple ways to separate this. I found it's just easier just to strike it right here with a hammer. You can hit it on the tie rod end with the nut backed off and flush, but you'd still kind of run the risk of mushrooming that and getting that stuck. So I'm leaving the nut on there to catch this when it falls, but I'm just going to strike it here a few times. There we go. Okay, and then you can just take that nut off. And so we don't lose it, I'm just going to put it right back on. Now we need to loosen and remove this lower ball joint. And this has got a little metal clip in here. Kind of a unique clip, but you kind of just need to pull that out just a little bit. And then you're able to come over here and pull that out. You can see it's got this little hook, so when you put it in, that grabs onto the side of that nut. So we'll just take that off. We're going to reuse that. Now we can loosen and remove this nut, which is a 19 millimeter. Okay, now we can loosen that, but I'm going to leave it on so that we can strike here on this part of the hub to break this taper. And while I do that, I'm actually going to have my friend Kristian is going to pry down on the control arm because this control arm otherwise is pushing up. Alright, so I've got a pry bar wedged in over here. I don't know if you can see it, putting some downward pressure while we strike this. There we go. Now we can take that nut off. Okay, now he's going to pry down on that so we can push that ball joint out of the way and swing this over this side here. Now sometimes these the axle shaft will get stuck in the hub, and you can put some penetrating oil on there with some liquid wrench, or PB Blaster works pretty well. But I'm just going to tap that a few times. There we go. There we go. And so you can kind of just, I've just got the wheel turned, or got the hub turned the other way, and you can kind of push the axle out while you pull this. There we go. Now on the inside edge here, the easiest way on this driver's side that we found is just to get a pry bar in from below and just wedge that between the the transmission and that end of the axle. There we go. And you want to have a drain pan down there because you're going to lose a little bit of fluid. We can pull the old axle out. And there's the old one here compared to the new one. I noticed this one's got these little scallops or little cutouts in the end. The new one does not, but I've done several and it doesn't really seem to matter. So let's get that new one in. Okay, so on the new one, we just want to feed it back through the same direction. And again, just be careful. You don't want to damage those boots. It's a good idea to look at the seal in here too. Sometimes guys will just always replace that, but this looks okay, and we weren't leaking anything, so we're gonna try to guide that in there. Sometimes you gotta turn it while you push it in. There we go. You'll hear that metal thud when it's in. We can put the other end in to the hub here. And again, that helps having an extra hand here. So there we go. I'm going to have my friend pry down on this lower control arm here while we line up that ball joint. All right, there we go. Okay, now we can put that that lower ball joint nut on there. This is a 19 millimeter. You just want to tighten that down. Well, torque it to spec. See your manual, and then you're going to want to make sure that you can line it up with one of these. This hole here. Put that in, and that'll snap into place, and that locks that from turning. And then over here on this side, we can line up and put in this tie rod, and just make sure that just like that. We'll tighten that down. And again, you're going to want to just see your manual on the the spec here. But we're just going to tighten this down for now. And then we can go ahead and put that cotter pin in there. This is a new cotter pin, of course. Okay, now we can put the axle nut back on. This is the new axle nut. And in order to tighten that, I'm just going to use a screwdriver here in the end of the rotor and tighten this down. This is a 36, and this is a really tight one here. And just again, double check your manual on the torque spec on that axle nut. And once that's in place, you'll see right here, we need to stake that nut and just pound this down into that little notch or that little keyway on the axle. And that's enough to hold that in place and keep that from backing off. And you're done. Just make sure to torque everything to spec and top your fluid off, since we did lose some fluid when pulling those out. I forgot to mention that in the other video. Make sure on the Odyssey as well, make sure you're using the Honda approved transmission fluid. Now to add the transmission fluid, this one's a little tough, but there's a little cap down there. It's a 17 millimeter, and so we've got that off and got the funnels in here, and going to go ahead and top that off. We measured the amount that came out, which was just over a quart, so that's what we're going to put back in. That's pretty much everything. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. I will put a link in the description to my website, which will have a few product links, including the parts used in this video. Thanks so much for watching, and good luck.